Hello YouTube. So this is a bit of a spur of the moment video. If you watched my last one on the M3, you'll see I bought a bit of a dog of an E36 M3. Go and watch that video because that gives you the full backstory. But essentially, she's a rough old gal, but she does have a couple of months MOT left, and I figured it would be quite nice to have the full E36 M3 original experience, albeit on a rusty leggy car in 2025. It's quite hard to pick these cars up cheap. It's getting harder and harder as the years goes on. It's taken me a long time to find one, but we've got a few jobs that need doing before I can use the car. I mean, I don't really care if the car's a bit rough, but I just want the engine to be peachy before I probably end up breaking the car up, because the car is not good. But yeah, so essentially what I was doing was jumping into the car and just having a quick look at seeing what I need to order. I want to do an engine flush and a few other bits and pieces, but yeah, I found some horrors, so I thought I'd show you. So if you watched the last video, you'd have seen the condition of the brakes. They're not good. Fine, it's only disc and pads. On closer inspection, we've got some serious issues, people. That is the front brake lines, which, I mean, this here is rotten. If I poke and prod that too much, it's going to spring a leak, I expect. So yeah, that's not great. We've got a broken spring on the front here, which would explain why the car sits so low. So that's good. We do have some new arch liners, a new under tray, some new, I don't know what they're called, they go on the corner of the bumpers, but that's pretty good. But what I was trying to do was, it's got a pretty rough idle, and I know there's some split vacuum hoses, so we've got this thing up here to repair the intake boot, which is here. The engineering in some of this stuff is quite impressive, I'll admit, but these might be available from the dealer, but I'm probably going to put a carbon box or some sort of air box on there, so I don't really want to buy stuff that I'm then going to bin. So I might just try brake cleaner in that and then super gluing it just to make it airtight again. It's only a small split. I think there's a little bit on the back side somewhere as well, there, so that can be rescued, that's no big deal. You've got this pipe which goes to the secondary air valve system, which is absolutely shot, so I whipped this airbox off and stuff like that just to get down in there. But let me show you the underside. It's pretty horrific. So obviously took the under trays and stuff off, and then if you get under the car, yeah, she is rusty as hell. I didn't even lay under the car when I looked at it, to be honest. I wasn't that worried. But yeah, like, everything looks like it's been at the bottom of the ocean. Super crusty. It has got its cross brace and its original exhaust, which is nice. This random plastic trim is pretty much ready to fall off, so we'll take that off in a moment. Whip the under tray off, and you can see here someone's cable tied the oil cooler in both ends, so that's great. It's also got, so if you're not familiar with M3s, they have, obviously there's your crank pulley, there's your aircon pump, this one up here, and then you've got your tensioner, and then this is your secondary air valve pump thingy. It's called, so yeah, some sort of emissions control at cold start, basically. So that needs to be deleted because we don't want or need that. But that pipe that comes off it one side, it comes off it here, goes around there. You've got a metal pipe that runs up here, and it goes up to the airbox. So we're going to delete that because we don't want that on the engine anyway. Save a bit of weight, remove some components that are no good. But some special person has put a used the wrong aircon belt on there because the belt is too skinny. That's not the end of the world, but I think the tensioner is also seized because I shouldn't be able to rotate the belt by hand. So that's pretty sketchy, but we're deleting that anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Also, the radiator has bowed out, which is also terrible news. So we're going to need a new radiator. Lovely jubbly. On top of that, besides the obvious amounts of rust on everything, these front tyres, that one's not horrendous, but it's well on its way to being dead. That one, the inner edge is gone and it's starting to split, like due to age. Power steering is leaking, obviously. It's an E36. Yeah, she's super rusty, component wise. The chassis isn't like the worst I've seen. I've seen much worse than this. But like, if you look at the crust that's on that might even be a split boot on that track rod end as well, maybe. I'm not going to poke it too much. But you look at the thick rust that's accumulated on there, on the anti-roll bar, on the lower arm, on that, which is that the lower aircon pipe. I mean, look at the state of that. It's pretty gnarly. Also looks like we might have a sump leaking, which is also good. So yeah, it's pretty rough, to be honest. And any of you who, I haven't really had any negative comments, not that I would take too much notice anyway, but any of you who'd be thinking, oh no, why would you break up an M3? Unfortunately, like, to put all that right underneath is just mountains of work. It can all be done, obviously, but you know, it's about being sensible with the amount of money that needs to be spent. And ultimately, I'm not filthy rich, so I'm not about to sink tons of money into it. However, the point of this video is to show you what piece of shit this car is. So I'd originally planned to just basically do an oil change, sort some vacuum hoses out, and then just mince about in the car for a couple of months. But I'm now having second thoughts because of how bad it is. However, I would still like to use it, so I think, yeah, we just got to get on with it. Also, let me show you the driver jacking point so you can see how bad it is. Don't know how well you're going to see this, but there's a whacking great hole where there shouldn't be. Up here. Woohoo. So that is completely rotten under there, which is also wonderful. So yeah, it's bad. It is bad, but there we go. Here's what it is. Anyway, so on to more positive news. The aim of this video is just to show you a bit of wrenching on it, really, and just to reinforce how bad it is, in case any of you got ideas about me bastardising what is a good car, because I don't think this is a good car, really. But we do need to address also, this might be the culprit of our rough idle, as well as this. I don't actually know if this will affect the idle, because this just feeds into the airbox and then into the cold side of the exhaust, like exhaust manifolds. So that might not cause a bad idle, I don't think it will, but this definitely will cause a bad idle. I think you can still get them from the dealer, but like I say, we're not going to replace that yet. But what I can see is just down there, this little nipple, it tees into the purge valve. This is the purge valve here, which is emissions related, I think. And then that obviously goes up to the intake manifold. Well, plenum, throttle bodies, whatever you want to call it. So there's a hose missing from there. I don't know where that would go, what's been removed or whatever. I did wonder if it's actually just blocked off, because I've seen some of these plastic fittings before where it's not actually it can't cause an air leak. So I just got a bit of wire, and I can jam that all the way up in there. So I'm going to say that is the main culprit of our vacuum leak, along with a little bit of leakage from there. So what I want to do is super glue that, probably just put a bit of hose in there with a bolt and a Jubilee, just to stop that air sort of leaking from there. And then I'm just going to check the power steering fluid, whip the belt off, and see what I need to order. And then also I'm going to try and remove this secondary air valve crap, maybe take the pump off as well, I don't know, but certainly all this side can go because it's redundant. And hopefully we can get it running a bit nicer, so even if to drive it it's an absolute death trap, at least the actual car itself is, or the engine, the important bit, is a bit healthier. Just lubed up this linkage as well because it was a bit sticky, so I've just given it a bit of the old WD-40 on all the points of contact, and that seems pretty happy now. It's got a snappy throttle again, whereas before you do that and it sort of slowly would go back. I guess it just needs a bit of use. I am a bit scared. Like, the more I look, the more I find, and the more I'm horrified. So I think I'm just going to stop looking, and I'm just going to drive the car, and just ignorance is bliss, right? Because the more I find, I'm just going to be like, oh, I should do that, and realistically, just going to be careful, drive it. I think I want to drive it, even if it is rough. So yeah, let me get this secondary air valve stuff off. I'll show you me pulling that off, and then I need to get some bits ordered, and then I'll probably finish up this video doing a quick service on it, fresh plugs, and yeah. Then the next video will be, I'll do some road driving in it, so you'll see that, and I'll announce the competition winner in that video. I'm not going to do it in this video because this video is a bit of a premature one. I didn't expect to be doing this, but there's quite a bit of juicy content here, so I figured you guys would be interested. Right, so to start off with, I'm going to cut this belt. I think it actually is the right belt, but it's just worn. It looks like it's been rubbing on this nut here, because there's some sort of, well, there were some marks on it before I rubbed them off. But either way, I think the tensioner has failed. Well, I don't know if it's manually adjusted, I haven't looked too far yet, but either way, we're not going to use this belt because we're going to delete this pump. So I'm going to cut through the belt. This would also explain why on the way home that the aircon was sort of intermittently working now and again. Because I'm guessing the belt was just slipping when the engine was on. So there we go. That's that crappy belt out of the way. So I think what I need to do once I've taken this pump off is just put like a normal 328 belt on there, because the rest of it looks pretty similar to a 328. I might have to have a little measure up. Anyway, so we're going to whip this pipe off first. Got a Jubilee clip there, and then we'll try and unmount this from the car. Looks like some 13 mils. There we go. So I've popped that little Jubilee off. That's not back there. We've got this 10mm bolt here. So that should get that free there. And then it looks like there's a 13mm up there as well. So we're going to need to pop that off. In great British fashion, it's now starting to rain, so that's good. But we got that pipe off, so that was split 2 places there, and of course up there that you've already seen. So bin that side of it, cut the belt off. The pump itself, it's a heavy old thing. It's probably like 5 kilos. It's heavy, and the source of a lot of the noise from the front end. So glad to be rid of that. And then what I've done on the underside, there is some more gubbins that goes up. I think this goes up to the exhaust manifold, but I'm not in a position, I don't really want to be taking that side apart right now. So all I've done is stuck a bolt and a Jubilee in there just to bung that off. I'll cable tie them up somewhere safe, but yeah, they're out of the way. There is also, if you were doing this properly, there's obviously the feed into the airbox, and this is after the filter, so you would need to blank that. Just seal this jobby off. I'm gonna stick a comb filter on there for the meantime. Anyway, I want to hear all the M3 noises. There's also a vacuum pipe which I haven't addressed yet, but it's up. There's a little unit thing here. I don't know if it's like a non-return valve or one-way valve or something like that. It's got a little vacuum line that comes off it. So I don't know where it goes, but it certainly routes up towards the engine. So I'm guessing one of these I'm going to have to find and make sure that I blank it off once I deal with that piece down there. So yeah, that's the secondary air valve stuff gone. The tensioner is absolutely dead, and the aircon pump is a little noisy, but yeah, that's really shot. So I'm going to whip this belt off now and see what state these pulleys are in next, I think. Right, we're at the point where I've just taken the belt off, so just a little Allen key and then twist the tensioner. The belt's been replaced recently, which I did see in the paperwork, so that's good, we won't touch that. But everything else is shot. The water pump, bearings are noisy, and there's a lot of play in it. So it needs a water pump. The top pulley isn't actually too bad, but it needs doing. This pulley, or this is just an idler, I think, is absolutely dead. The power steering pump actually sounds kind of hard to test it, but it sounds okay. The alternator is completely shot, probably the worst alternator I've ever heard. Here we go. Yeah, completely shot. So again, I'm not going to change that at the moment, but that's something that's going to need doing because the bearings are dead. So noisy. I've just whipped the cap off the power steering pump. You can tell that's not been off in a long time. And there's no fluid in there, and the fluid that is in there is brown. So I'm going to just flush that very quickly. I'm basically going to take the bottom hose off. There's not a lot left in there anyway, and just top it up. Hopefully the pump is salvageable. There's a lot of noise when you run this, which it sounded like power steering pump to me, which the fluid is low. That where everything else is shot, you've got so many bearing noises. Obviously that thing was absolutely shot. The water pump's noisy. That idler's noisy. The aircon is probably the best one, but still a bit noisy. They've got two pulleys that are noisy, and the alternator is shot. So we might get away with not having to change power steering pump, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop off the fitting here. Where are we? I'm going to drop that off, drain out whatever fluid comes out, and then just re-top her up. And I'll call that a mini flush. It's not a proper system flush, but it's a quick flush, minimal effort, and see if that brings that pump back around. But yeah, so I'm going to order a water pump, that idler, a belt for the aircon, these two pulleys. I'm going to leave the alternator for now, and then oil, filter and spark plugs. I'm not going to put expensive oil in it for the moment. The whole idea is I just want to flush out what's in there. If you're not familiar with M3s or this variant, they've got an oil cooler built in, so obviously flushing that whole system is not the easiest. So this hasn't had an oil change in a long time. I'm just going to bang in some cheap oil. I know you're going, ooh. It can't be any worse than the oil that's in it, which is like 8 years old, which is not good. But although it's not done a lot of mileage, the oil is very old. So I'm going to bang in some cheap oil for whatever I drive over the next 2 months of this car, if I get it back on the road. You know, I might do 500 miles in it. And then when I pull the engine out, when it inevitably goes in the saloon, then I'll put some proper oil in it. So yeah, I'll put some cheap oil in it, some 1040, whatever, cheap nasty stuff, and just let that flush the system through whilst it's all clean. At least then I've got peace of mind that I can, before I start using the car properly as a track car, obviously I'm probably going to do bottom end bearings, stuff like that, maybe a Vanos rebuild. It'll get proper oil before I do any track stuff, but just for using it on the road and giving the engine a bit of a clean out, I'm going to just chuck some generic stuff in there. So well, I couldn't resist. I saw a vacuum line that split under there, so I thought actually let's just take the whole plenum off, and then I can actually double check everything under here. So you've got a ton of these little 10mm things, and they hold a weird stainless nut. They hold all of this on. You've got this little mount here for the accelerator cable. I've just undone that. And then you've got a couple of 13mm underneath that, like there's like some brackets live like here to support it to the block. I've just done the air intake sensor, temperature sensor. I've also flushed the power steering fluid off camera, that's done, as well as ordering all the service items. But I figured let's whip this off and I'll include this in the video because I thought it might be interesting. So, not pulled one of these off before, don't know how it's going to go. Probably do with just undoing that throttle linkage, but I'm trying to be really lazy. But I think it's gonna, I'm gonna have to admit defeat. Stay there. That vacuum hose kind of in the way, but let's just pull it off and see what happens. Oh yeah, we've got this hose here, which I did start undoing but didn't finish. There we go, that's the plenum off. Wasn't too bad, but the one thing that buggered me up was there's a fuel, like a fuel breather, goes down to a separator. We've got this oil separator, and then obviously the oil returns to the sump, and then the vapours get burnt off in the manifold. But for some reason BMW used these stupid fuel line clips on there, which are like single use, so I just couldn't get that off. Ended up just yanking the manifold out of that fitting. So I'd probably replace that for a normal Jubilee when we get round to it. But I've found the source of our vacuum leak, so I'm happy I've gone this far into it. This oil separator hose is completely buggered. Yeah, so that's going to need replacing. I'm kind of tempted to just do everything whilst I'm in here, so it's all fresh. So you've got this idle control valve hose that goes up here. You've got this one here. You've got this one here, which, well, there's no cracks in it. It's so old, like there's no spring to the rubber, like it's just, yeah, it's gone. And then you've got the two oil separator lines that go down to the dipstick. They look okay, so I'll probably leave those alone. But yeah, 1, 2, 3, and obviously that one that's fucked, that needs replacing, so that's 4. There's also, you've got these little solenoids, I guess they are, where there's some vacuum stuff coming off them. So you've got one there, there's a little bit of rubber hose there, that runs up to, is that to the fuel regulator? Sort of comes around on itself. It's so awkward. You'd think you'd have loads of access, being that you don't really have an intake manifold on there, but the access is crap. So yeah, and also I think there's one there. Yeah, there's a lot of little rubber hoses, so I'm going to replace all of them with just some generic black silicone hose. I've got some on the shelf, so that's nice and easy. But yeah, pain in the arse. There's actually way more than I expected. I thought, being that it's got throttle bodies, the manifold would be real simple, but if anything it's more complex than a M52 one, which is good. We can also see this one, which is the one that was open, the elements. I don't know where that's gone or what should be there, so if anyone knows what that should be, let me know. But it's clipped into there. It then follows up and comes into the idle control valve, so that's definitely going to give us an air leak, I guess. I don't know, this is all new to me, but I'm guessing that should have something on it. So yeah, we're going to have to do some investigating. But right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to order these hoses as well. These are probably going to be from BMW themselves. We'll get that one, that one, that one, that one. I also need to figure out if this oil separator needs replacing. Don't know if they're common to fail, or whether it's a serviceable thing, or whether they generally last forever. So I have to do some research into that. But yeah, fun and games. Right, we're back at it a couple of days later, and our parts have turned up, or at least what I think we need for now. So I've got hoses from BMW. I'll show you the part numbers in a second, so for anyone else who needs them, you can order them. And then I've also got some other bits and bobs. That's the part numbers for the bits that we're putting on there. It's pretty good, it's like 25-30 is on, still being able to get all of these bits from the main dealer. Very, very handy. So yeah, they will replace all of our grotty underside hoses. And then I've also got a service kit. I've gone for the cheapest 1040 oil, because we're only going to stick it in there for a few hundred miles and then drop it back out. We've got a water pump. The original one from the dealer is actually no longer in production, and they were quite expensive, about 360 quid. So I've gone for an FIA water pump, which is an okay brand, not the best brand, but when it comes to water pumps they're quite good because they've got a metal impeller, so that's what you want. So that will go on. And then lastly, we've got a selection of pulleys for the front of the engine, because they're all pretty sharp. So let's get these bits and bobs on. Right, we've had a crisis meeting and we're not doing the water pump now. So on these S50s, the water pump's a bit more like a M62, like a V8, in that the water pump doesn't have just 4 bolts either side, or 2 bolts either side, 4 in total. You've got lots of bolts. There's like 6 or 7 bolts, and one of them is behind the crank pulley. And I don't want to take the crank pulley off because the aircon is still hooked up, and the rads, and yeah, just we'll leave it. The bearings in it are bad, but it should do for a month or so's worth of driving until I take the car off the road. So we'll do that properly later. So I'm just going to attack the pulleys now, because these are easy enough to get at and they're all shot. Can I make the noise? You might have picked that up. So yeah, we're just going to do the pulleys and then we'll put all the intake stuff back together. I just want to drive this thing. So I've just done these 2 pulleys. They were nice and easy. This aircon pulley was down there, and if you remember earlier in the video, the belt was a bit short, or yeah, like the belt was loose. I have deleted the secondary air pump system, but I couldn't figure out why the belt was so loose. Anyway, I was looking at this thinking, has someone bodged a random pulley on there or something like that? No, I think what's actually happened is the pulley has just disintegrated and the plastic has disappeared, because it's obviously the right pulley. They look the same. But yeah, so that'll explain why the belt didn't fit, because the plastic had disintegrated. The bearing is so shot in this, I could try and pick it up on camera. But yeah, 27-year-old bearing, however old this car is. So, but thankfully I've got the right bearing, because I was worried, or right pulley, because I was worried I'd ordered the wrong thing, but looks like we're okay. So, might be able to have working aircon again. We are motoring along through this now. So I've got the vac hoses back in situ, all the pulleys on, belts back on. So we're almost ready to put the airbox back on. That's everything in its place, all new. We've reused the Jubilees, no reason to change them. Need to put a cable tie on that, just keep that in place. I think the clip's gone. That's our air temp sensor. Just need to figure out what that is, probably just block it off. So obviously something's disappeared. And I also managed to salvage the intake boot for now. So if you remember, this was split quite badly. So I've literally just super glued it. Seems to be okay. Not sure how long it will hold for, but hopefully no air leaks from that now. Did a bit long there as well, so that should go again. Yeah, worth a go. If not, it goes in the bin, so we figured we'd try it. But yeah, now pretty much ready to slap the airbox on, so this is the fun bit. Right, sorted, she's all back together. Just started her up, she runs fine. So that's all back and lovely. We still got to give it an oil change. And then she's pretty much ready to be used on the road. A quick test of the power steering pump. I've gone left to right with it and it's still noisy. The alternator is very noisy, so that could be some of the noise, and the water pump bearings are pretty shot. But I'm going to recheck the reservoir again tomorrow when I do the oil change in it, and see if the pump can be salvaged. But yeah, it's not looking good, so we might swap the power steering pump as well. Alright, we're back at it. It's another day, so a couple of bits left to do. I'll have a quick look at these spark plugs, see what state they're in, see if they need replacing. I haven't just bought them because they're like 100 quid from the dealer for 6 spark plugs, and even aftermarket they're quite expensive, so I figured I'd have a look at them before I replace them. So I just have to pop this cover off. We've got to bleed the cooling system, and quick oil change. So let's start off with getting this sump plug out. She's way out the back there. And there we go, out she comes. It's a nice black oil. It's only done a couple of thousand miles since it's had an oil change, but it hasn't been changed for 8 years, which is less than ideal. So yeah, I'll get that drained out. So whilst the oil's draining out, we'll do the spark plugs, or have a look. These are Allen keys, which are fine, but this top one is completely rotten. So yeah, the saga continues. I mean, there's just, yeah, it's basically rounded. So we've probably got one attempt at this. It's going to be a two-hander. Yeah, no chance. Right, I think we'll go and get one of our... Time for a torque socket, I think, because that is pretty rounded and rotten. Yeah, torque socket, we'll smash it in there, or torque bit. And just like that, 6-sided Torx to the rescue. Look at the state of this rocker cover, or vanity cover, whatever it is. Yeah, that might be the last time we use that bolt. Right. So now, that should just lift off. There we go. And then there's our coils. So let's have a quick look at a couple of these plugs. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm probably going to rip all the plugs out and see what state they're in. I can see oil here, which is not promising, because that means the rocker cover gasket's probably dead. But yeah, let's get the plugs out and have a look. Right, we've got some good progress. So I've whipped all 6 plugs out. They all look good. Left this one out to show you, but they look virtually brand new. They're a bit sooted up. I've moved the car around the yard a few times, so that might not help. But yeah, plugs look pretty much brand new. Very little wear on them, and they're the correct plugs, so I think we'll leave them for now. The only thing I did notice was number 4 and number 6 were actually loose, only slightly, but glad I still went in there and checked it. So, but yeah, we'll get that back together. There's no sign of, well, the rocker cover's definitely weeping, but it's not leaking badly into the plug well, so we'll leave that for the moment. Something that was good, I've done the oil filter's done. The filter that was in there was actually a genuine BMW filter, which is good to see. I haven't put a genuine one in there, obviously, because this is just a short oil change, a cheap oil change, just to get some fresh oil in there. So it's just a cheap filter and a cheap oil at the moment. But yeah, we just got to get this car used again, and then we'll give it some proper stuff when it comes out of this and goes into another car. But yeah, so all looking pretty good there. And there we go, that's our oil change done. Oil that come out of it is disgusting, as to be expected. So we've not put anything fancy in there, just some 10W40 semi-synthetic, cheap and cheerful. And that'll do for 500 miles or so. Give the engine a nice clean with some fresh oil, and then we'll drop that out again. Right, we are done. Our work here is done for the moment. Power steering pump still noisy, so probably gonna need change, but I'm gonna give it a road test before I jump the gun. Engine oil's done. She's running so much better, so all of those vacuum leaks were definitely playing havoc. Just topped up the coolant, so I've just insured it. I've got crap on my face. I've just insured it, I've just got to tax it, and then we can go for some road rippage. Right, let's start it up. On the button. Happy days. So there we go, that's a few jobs done on the engine. The rest of the car's still hanging, but I'm not worried about that. So we've got a couple of months MOT on it. I think we're going to go smash it around, put some miles on it, enjoy the car, you know, what's left of the bushes and brakes, and yeah, just get the full M3 experience, I guess, albeit in a shitty old one. Anyway, right, I think we'll knock this video on the head here. But anyway, if you've made it this far, thank you for watching as usual, and I will see you very soon.